Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video, I have built and will be showing you 6 unique drafts that have something slightly different about them, and we'll discuss whether it might be worth employing a slightly unique strategy at the start of the season as well. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, as I said, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you 6 unique drafts that each have something slightly different about them that should cause a bit of a discussion, and I would love to know down below in the comments if you like any of them, if there's one in particular you do or don't like. Always happy to hear what you think. This isn't just for the sake of entertainment and content, it's also because I pride myself and my content in making sure that I encourage you to think uniquely, critically, and differently as well. I will never, or at least very rarely, sit here and say, you should pick this player, or you should follow this chip strategy, or do this. I think if you ever watch content and someone tells you what to do, it's not normally a good sign. What I try to do instead is to say, here's the information as I see it. Of course, it will be biased because we can't help that, but here's the information as I see it. Here are a set of players or a set of options in terms of chip strategy that I like. I encourage you to go and do your own research and come to your own decision. It should still allow you to make better decisions in FPL because I'm narrowing down the options and I'm explaining the way that I think, but it should also allow you to come to your own decision. And I think at the end of the day, FPL is about making decisions that you believe in, that you are doing because you trust your own decision-making process, and there is no better feeling. So hopefully, maybe one of these drafts today just encourages you to think about a different player or think about a different structure, or just think that there isn't only one way to play FPL. And draft number 1 is about the bench boost. So for the bench boost, I really do believe that the more popular strategy, and potentially it could be the optimal strategy, is to play the bench boost in the early part of the season. I don't think there's necessarily a set standout game week in the early part, but the reason I say the early part is once we get a little bit into the first half, we're going to come across European football for a lot of the top teams, and then once we get to about game week 15, we're starting to get into the busy Christmas period. So you don't really want to wait, I don't think, as late as game week 15, although it could work. You also don't really want to wait until after your first wildcard, in my opinion, because when you play that first wildcard, you're going to want to own probably the likes of Haaland, Salah, Saka, because in that period of time, those teams got nice fixture runs. So what that leaves us with, for me, and I think for a lot of people, will be I want to play my bench boost before my first wildcard, and preferably before about game week 12. So you could play in any of those weeks conceivably, but the longer it goes on without you having wildcarded, and the further you get away from game week 1, the further you'll get into possibly potential issues, right? That's the way that FPL works. Things crop up, and you'll have free transfers to deal with that, but you just get, I suppose, every week that goes by, more and more could possibly go wrong. The alternative is you get more and more information, and you gain more and more team value. So I can see it both ways. After all of that rambling, I really do think that I'm looking at a bench boost in game week 1, 2, or 3. The reason for that is, again, I want to preferably bench boost as close to game week 1 as I can. I like a game week 1 bench boost. Logically, it makes the most sense, right? You can make unlimited changes to the deadline. You can, if you have any injuries, you can deal with them immediately. You don't have to use transfers. You don't have to take hits. And then after game week 1, you're done, right? You don't have to worry about a bench boost until the second half of the season. So I think from a logical perspective, I like it. But the fixtures just don't really line up particularly, especially for those like backup goalkeepers, for the 4.5 goalkeepers, and for the cheap defenders. If you've tried building a bench boost in game week 1, it just doesn't quite work well. Game week 2 and game week 3, arguably, fixtures-wise, work slightly better than game week 1. It's just you obviously don't know what's going to happen in the preceding game weeks. Let's say you plan to bench boost in game week 3. What happens if you have 4 injuries in game week 1 and 2 suspensions in game week 2, right? You can plan all you want, but then you obviously wouldn't be able to do that. So you do run the risk that, of course, things can go wrong in the meantime. But I do think a game week 3 bench boost could be something that is a viable strategy. This isn't super unique. I've seen a lot of people talking about it, but I definitely like it. The reason for that, if you look at the game week 1 squad that I've built here, it's still really, really decent. So Sanchez in net with Kelleher on the bench. You've then got Van Dijk, Williams, Tarkowski, Vandenberg, and Dorgu. So 5 good defenders all playing. You've got Salah, Palmer, Enzo Lafie, Eze, and Anderson. So a really solid midfield 5. And then João Pedro, Beto, Watkins. Don't fixate on things like João Pedro versus Wood. It doesn't matter too much to this strategy. But I guess what I'm saying is, immediately, ignore the bench boost for now. It's a super strong game week 1 squad. So the best way to show you what that would look like in game week 3, I'll jump over to Fantasy Football Hub. And by the way, you can now get a free team rating. So if you just upload a screenshot of your team, you can get a free team rating like that. And then if you want to start planning ahead as well, like I'm doing here, I would just highly advise checking it out. Preseason is the best time to do it because you can get 50% off if you use my links down below. But you might as well get a free team rating. Even if you're like, Ross, I don't want to sign up. I don't want to give you my hard-earned money, not me, Hub. I understand that completely. That's fine. But you might as well get a free team rating. Let me know what that team rating is down below. And obviously, if you get on with the site and you want to do a little bit more in fantasy, then of course you can look to sign up. And if you do use my link, it massively supports me, which I appreciate. But also you get a discount. It's a win-win. So for game week 1, 92% of the team is rated. Game week rating is 90%. Game week 2, it still looks good. So all of the fixtures for that 11, if you're going to bench boost in 3, it kind of lines up quite nicely that all of the players also have good fixtures. You even got a strong bench with like Beto against Brighton. In fact, the bench boost in game week 2 wouldn't look awful. So for those that are listening rather than watching, it'd be Kelleher against Villa, Beto against Brighton, Vandenberg against Villa, and Dorgu against Fulham. That kind of shows you, by the way, how a bench boost in game week 2 could also be viable. Change a couple of the players and it could look super strong. But in game week 3, the fixtures align really nicely here. So at the moment, the bench is lined up as Sanchez against Fulham, Vandenberg against Sunderland, Dorgu against Burnley, and Enzo Lafie against Brentford. I know there's a bit of a clash between Lafie and Vandenberg. You could put Belaber in here or someone like that if you'd prefer to. You can mix it up with the 5 million. But again, I don't think that's necessarily super important, just which 5 million mids you pick. You could even say that Van Dijk's the one that would be on the bench because he's got Arsenal at home, but the team looks pretty strong, and you can include the likes of, again, Brentford assets against Sunderland. You can include Man United assets against Burnley and Sunderland assets against Brentford. Like, you've got a really, really nice setup there of cheap players that could be nice for a bench boost in 3. So like I said, do check out Fantasy Football Hub, by the way, because it's so useful to sort of plan ahead. You've got the 3 predicted game weeks. You've got loads. You already know all of the features on the site, so do check it out. But to go back to that team then, I think it's a super viable strategy to bench boost in game week 2 or 3 as opposed to 1. If you're just sat there thinking, in game week 1, I don't have enough information. In game week 1, I don't know which players are going to start and which are not. I don't like the fixtures, but I do want to bench boost early. Have a little tinker and play around for me with a game week 2 or a game week 3 bench boost and see what you think. I've been playing around with it this evening, right? It's about 10:30 p.m. when I'm recording this. I started about 7, just having a little bit of an idea about what would it look like, and I quite like them. All I would say for me, and this is the final thing, I just think bench boost is such a big talking point at the moment. I don't know that this looks that much stronger than game week 1, so the conclusion I came to is probably marginally on paper, I prefer the bench boost in 2 and 3 to game week 1. But more can go wrong in the meantime. And so if it's not that much significantly better, why not just play it in the first week when less can go wrong, you would hope? Because again, you've got unlimited transfers to the deadline. And also start the season on a high. Even if your bench boost only gets you 7 points, well, you scored an extra 7 points, right? You're likely to have a stronger start to the season. So that's where I'm lining up right now with the bench boost. But I do really think it's viable to play it in 2, 3, probably not 4, because that's after the first international break. So draft number 2, I've called All Out Attack. It's rated at 91% according to Fantasy Football Hub, game week rating of 90%. I liked this significantly more than I thought I would. So the idea, and by the way, the next draft is going to be kind of all-out defense. I've called it defense first. So we can compare the two of them. But the idea for this is, as it sounds on paper, you sort of go all out in the attack and strip pretty much all of the money out of the defense. I've tried not being silly with this, though, in the sense of just putting like 4 million defenders. I've tried building a strong enough back line that it is actually viable and can last you until your first wildcard, and it's not just a gimmick for this video. So to read it out, I've gone Kelleher in goal, so 4.5, and I've got 4.5 defenders. So I've got De Kuiper, Juve, Van der Ven, and Richards. All 4 of them I think are really good. De Kuiper or De Kuiper, I keep butchering the name, and Juve are very, very attacking. They've got incredible numbers. They're both sitting above 0.3 XGI last season, obviously in weaker leagues, but still very impressive. And then Van der Ven and Richards, I think, could be pretty good for defensive contributions. And then I've got Goodmanson as a 4 million defender, who, by the way, is absolutely viable, along with probably Esteve, or again, butchering names from Burnley. There are a couple of 4 million defenders, but I actually feel like 4.5s and then a decent 4, it serves you okay enough. And I don't know, and I could be wrong here, I'm just hypothesizing, but I don't know that the gap between the 4.5s that do quite well this season and the premium defenders is going to be that drastic. Like, if you look back at last season, and yes, defensive contributions might change this in one way or another, I think Gvardiol was the top scoring defender with fewer than 150 points. So defenders haven't been hugely high scoring, and yes, this new rule might see that happen, but might it not be more favourable for the cheap defenders that are playing for defences that might do more defending? So I wonder if actually the cheap defence route is the way, and I certainly don't mind that kind of back line. And what that then frees up is I've gone for a cheap 4.5 forward, but after that I've gone Salah, Wirtz, Palmer, Kudus, Rodgers, Gyökeres and Watkins. I'll read out that 7 again because it's remarkable. You've got Salah and Palmer in there. You've got Gyökeres and Watkins. So essentially 4 premiums. Plus Wirtz is probably like a half premium. You might call that like a 4.5 premium team. And then Kudus and Rodgers. Then when you glance back at the defence, you think, that's not that bad. I look at this draft and I genuinely think if I maybe wasn't creating content and I was just having fun with FPL, which is probably the way I should do it, I genuinely wonder if this is maybe something that I would go with. I would probably try and find an in-between. So I would maybe drop Wirtz to a £5.5 million midfielder of your choice, would free up 3 million, which would just allow a little bit more money in the defence. You don't need to go overboard with it, but maybe just adding, I don't know, adding one 6 million defender in there, that might make all the difference in terms of giving you more flexibility. So something like Richards to Van Dijk and Wirtz down to any 6.5 mid, that's probably slightly better overall, and it still gives you that super strong attack. So I wanted to go all out on the all-out attack to kind of prove the point of it's a very viable draft. But I would probably find more of a balance. I would love to know what you guys think of this draft here. Is anyone thinking they're going to strip all of the money out of the defence, go for the 4.5s that have some attacking threat or maybe defensive contribution potential, and then invest all of the money in the attack? Because I look at that attack and I'm like, wow, I really, really would love that. So yeah, let me know what you think of draft 2. Draft number 3 now is the complete opposite. So draft number 3 I've called defense first, but as I said with draft number 2 being the all-out attack, I don't want to just do something for the gimmick of being in the video. So I've tried to actually build a draft which, yes, has invested a lot of money in defense, but hasn't gone overboard and is actually built a squad which is viable and could serve you very well. And what I found most interesting is this is the draft that is highest rated by Fantasy Football Hub. Again, do let me know down below in the comments what rating you got for your team when you submitted it using the link down below. But this was rated at 94%, which is higher than any of my own real actual drafts have managed to achieve, and 93% in Game Week 1 as well. So this is really, really rated by their algorithm. So I'll read it out for you. But yeah, the idea is this is a flexible 3-5-2/4-4-2, but most weeks you would play a 4-4-2. So this is Sean Dyche football. Sanchez in goal, so you cover the Chelsea clean sheet. Then I've gone Van Dijk, Gabriel, Gvardiol and Murillo. So 3 6 million defenders and a 5.5. The midfield 4 is then Palmer, Wirtz, Salah and Enzo Laffi. Of course, if you downgrade the defence slightly, you could upgrade Laffi if you wanted to. But 3 really strong and then Laffi. 3 and then Laffi, say that quickly. And then Welbeck and Watkins as the front 2. There's even a bit of bench cover you've got there with the likes of Baleba on the bench. Now, the actual justification for this come from a conversation I had with Praz, and anyone that watches a lot of content, you'll know who Praz is. If you don't, I highly recommend checking out the FPL Wire. He's brilliant with FPL. And the chat that we were having, last season, some good defenders got, 130, 140 points, right? That's a good return for a defender. We would consider that a very good season. We've now added this new rule in FPL where defenders can pick up defensive contribution points, and we saw with Tarkowski last season he picked up an additional 44 points. So good defenders that get the most defensive contributions might get an extra, let's say 30 to 40 points. Let's say 40 for the sake of this conversation. So if a defender can get 130 points, if you then add 40 more to that, they'll pick up 170. 170 points for a 5.5 or £6 million asset is a hell of a lot. There will not be many midfielders priced 5.5 or 6 million that accumulate 170 to 180 points. There will be some, maybe. I think to like Cole Palmer in his breakout season at Chelsea. But it doesn't happen that often. And when it does, we say that they're incredible value. So if we think a 5.5 to £6 million midfielder that could break 170 points is amazing value, there are defenders that could do that for the same price. Like, these defenders aren't expensive. They're expensive for defenders, but 6 million in your overall budget isn't really a lot. So perhaps a 4 at the back, utilising these really good assets at good prices is worth it, which then allows you to only invest your money really into 6 attackers rather than 7. Because rather than me playing a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3, I've got 4 defenders, which means only 6 of my attackers need to be good enough to start each week. So like I said, you might want to remove a little bit more money out of Gvardiol and invest that into that Enzo Lafay spot if you don't want to start him or Baleba every week. Or you might want to, let's say, downgrade Watkins to Mateta. The only reason I've got Watkins in a lot of these drafts is he's at that price point where he's good, but Gyökeres is good. And then what if Ekitike breaks? You know what I mean? I just feel like he's at that nice price. But Watkins down to Mateta frees up 1.5 million. You could then do Enzo Lafay to Kudus. So it could be Mateta and Kudus versus Lafay and Watkins. It doesn't really matter too much. Again, the purpose of this is just to say, could defense first genuinely be a viable strategy? Could be going big at the back actually finally be back? I would love to know down below in the comments, out of draft 2 and draft number 3, so I have all-out attack and defense first, most people will find a balance. But if I was forcing you in Game Week 1 to go into Game Week 1 with one of those two drafts, let me know which one you'd pick. I think my heart and my fun Maverick side would want to pick 2. But if you were to ask me which I think will be the highest scoring, I wouldn't be surprised if it's draft number 3. So for draft number 4, we are going to get a little bit eggy and a little bit psychological because it's called All of the Eggs. And that is not a pun because my nickname is The Egg as a bald man. It's because of the idea of putting all of your eggs in one basket. So I've spoken about this a lot. There's a bias called diversification bias. So what this means is, as humans, we have a bit of a natural tendency to want to try and spread the risk and diversify. In other words, we don't tend to want to put all of our eggs in one basket. From an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. Like, you don't want to put all of your resources in one place. And I am not a financial expert. This is not financial advice. But often in your investment portfolio, it's a good idea to diversify your investments. So I understand as humans why we want to diversify. And in a lot of aspects of your life, it makes sense not to put all of your eggs in one or at least a few baskets and to actually spread the risk around. In FPL, I can also understand why you'd want to do this. If you're not super confident in the outcome and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to back a double up on a defense because I'm not that sure that they'll keep a clean sheet, that's absolutely fine. Or if you're thinking psychologically, I don't want to own 2 defenders from the same team because when the clean sheet gets wiped out, it feels awful. Or I don't want to put 2 attackers in from the same team because what if they don't score? I can get that, all of that. So I'm not sitting here telling you that you should own only triple ups. But on the flip side, if you're confident in an outcome, if you truly think Arsenal are the best defence and they'll get the most clean sheets in the opening 6 games, why not put more than one Arsenal defender in? If you think that Villa are going to be flying at the start of the season, like they've looked so good in pre-season, Marlon, Rodgers, Watkins, unbelievable, why not put 2 or 3 of their attacking assets in as opposed to just one? I've had loads of people message me, I love the look of Marlon, but I've already got Rodgers in my draft. Well, if you think one will do well, the other one could very well do well, getting the goal and the assist. And if you think that Villa are going to score goals, they could both be involved. So why not go for both of them? I'm sitting here about to say something very silly because I've never won FPL and I've never got close to. But I think to do very well in FPL, you can't only diversify. You actually have to put all of your eggs in one basket. Go all in on results that you think are likely. Because there is a world in this draft right now. I've got 3 Arsenal, 3 Villa, 2 Liverpool. There is a world where those 3 teams don't turn up in Game Week 1 and you have an absolute stinker. Let's say Arsenal concede and Liverpool and Villa don't score. I mean, that is a stinking game week. On the flip side, if Arsenal keep a clean sheet and Liverpool and Villa score 6 goals between them, you are probably in the top 10k in the world at that point for Game Week 1. You've had an absolute stormer because that means that a lot of your players are getting points based on only 3 games. I'm probably doing a terrible job at explaining this, but it's probably higher risk, but also higher reward because when it comes in, it's great. Now, what you have to think about in this sort of draft is the long term. Because if you go for double Arsenal defence, you don't even have to go triple. Let's say you go for 2. In the weeks where the clean sheet is wiped out, you have a very good chance of getting a red arrow because immediately that's 2 players. With 1 goal, 2 of your clean sheets are gone. And I understand that. But on the flip side, then, when they get the clean sheet, that means that in 1 game, you've managed to get 2, whereas other people would only get 1. So there are multiple ways to play FPL in terms of spreading the risk, going all in. I like double ups. I don't always go for triple ups because that is really putting all of your eggs in very few baskets. But also, I like to leave my 3rd spot open unless I'm super confident that I know for a fact I'm owning the 3 best players. So here, I'll read out the draft for those on audio, by the way. It's Raya, Saliba, Wan-Bissaka, Gabriel. So I know Gabriel's an injury doubt, and I know that Arsenal don't have the best fixtures, but they're probably going to be one of the best defences again. Triple up on the defence. Then I've got Salah, Wirtz, Palmer, Marlon, Rodgers, Beto, Watkins. So triple Arsenal defence, double Liverpool attack, triple Villa attack. I'm not saying, this is just to show you the idea behind it. But again, I've had so many people, I like Wirtz, but do I need Wirtz and Salah? Well, they're two good assets, go for both of them. I like Marlon, but Watkins is in my team, but go for both of them. I just think you should treat each asset individually, but also if you have a good feeling about a team, go for it. I have absolutely no issue with that. In loads of my drafts, I've had Palmer and João Pedro because I expect Chelsea to score goals at the start of the season, and therefore they could both be involved in that. So sorry if I've butchered the explanation there. And again, I'm not necessarily advocating going for tons of triple ups. I like leaving that third spot open. So again, I think the point I forgot to make, but I don't know for a fact that Marlon, Rodgers, Watkins is the best three Villa. I might want Konsa. I might want Tielemans. For Arsenal, I would probably want to leave open at least one spot for one of Saka or Gyökeres. So maybe just look at some double ups. And when people say, yeah, but you've got two players from the same team, say, yeah, because when it goes well, it's going to go very well. So that's draft number 4, all of the eggs. Let's look at draft number 5. So draft number 5 I've called Only the Best. And this is something that I think about every season in pre-season is I'm looking at my drafts now and I've got like 2 Everton, 3 Nottingham Forest, 2 Spurs, a Leeds player in there. And I'm just looking at it like, how have I arrived at a team? I built a draft recently, and I think it was the one I showed on YouTube, where I had 0 Liverpool, 0 Arsenal, and 1 Man City. The 3 best teams in the league are Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, and I own a combined 1 player from their team. Now, FPL isn't necessarily about which teams do well, because you can still have assets that perform extremely well for poor teams that lose games, especially attacking assets, as long as they're still scoring goals. Someone like a Jared Bowen. I expect West Ham to be really poor this season. Jared Bowen's still a great asset. But I also always go through the thought experiment of, what if I just try and own as many players as I can from the top 3 or 4 teams? So that's what I've done with this draft. It does mean that I haven't been able to squeeze Salah in. It was Salah or Haaland. But the team just looks super strong. So I've gone for Alisson and Van Dijk as a double up on the Liverpool defence. And then Gvardiol and Gabriel. Again, I know Gabriel is a bit of an injury doubt. You could change him to a Cucurella if you wanted to, or a Saliba. So Alisson, Van Dijk, Gvardiol, Gabriel. I've got 4 defenders there from the 3 best teams in the league. In midfield, I've then got Reinders, Caicedo, Rodgers, Wirtz, and Saka. So again, Wirtz, Saka, and Reinders, 3 midfielders from the 3 best teams in the league. Reinders, I think, is going slightly under the radar. We don't know too much about him in the Prem, of course. He'll play sort of like a number 8 hybrid role. He'll get forward into the box a lot. He took so many shots last season in the Serie A. I really, really like him as an asset. So I think he could be good. And Caicedo, we know, was top for all midfielders last season for defensive contribution points. Rodgers is playing for a great team too. And then Wirtz and Saka. I think Saka's probably the most underrated player in FPL. Everyone's got Palmer. Why not chuck Bukayo Saka in there instead? And I've got Haaland and Gyökeres as a front 2. Even a decent bit of bench cover with Van der Ven. So here, what I've got is 3 Liverpool, 3 Arsenal, 3 City, and then a Chelsea and Aston Villa player. They are 2 teams that you would expect to be the 2 teams that might challenge for that top 3 spot, but will probably finish 4th and 5th. I can't really fault the team. I mean, again, no Palmer, no Salah. They've been in pretty much every draft that most people have built. But when you say rather than Palmer, you're going for Saka, rather than Salah, you're going for Haaland, and you're also getting the likes of Wirtz, Gyökeres, Gabriel, Gvardiol, Van Dijk, it's a lovely, lovely looking team. I would consider this. I mean, Fantasy Football Hub have rated it at 90%, not the strongest Game Week 1 rating, and it does mean you're going without Salah, so for some people it's not even an option. But you could conceivably switch Haaland and Wirtz to Bowen and Salah is the same price. So if you wanted to go for something similar to this, but you wanted Salah in there, it's absolutely achievable. Let me know what you think of this one. I feel like this one might not be for everyone, but maybe there is just a certain amount of, I don't know, just like certainty and just starting with the assets from the 3 best teams in the league and just thinking, I'm going to back good teams rather than bad ones. So draft number 6, I'll hold my hands up. This is a bit gimmicky, but it's for the fun, right? Pre-season is supposed to be fun, by the way. I think we forget this. By the way, FPL is supposed to be fun. It's a game that we're meant to play rather than just play it like robots. So have a bit of fun with it. There's 2 reasons for this. Firstly, I want to challenge you lot. So if you're still watching at this point, by the way, and you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe. If you're listening on audio, please rate 5-star. I really do appreciate all of the support this season. It's been unbelievable already. So thank you for that. But yeah, if you're still watching or listening at this point, what this draft is, draft number 6, is 1 player per team. So I'm going to challenge you to try and build a draft that is better than this one. So what I have done, the only rule, is you can only select 1 player from each team. So you have 15 players in a squad, which means 5 teams obviously won't have a player selected from. So you've got 15 clubs to choose from. And the idea is that you're not allowed to make a transfer all season. So you have to stick with this team for the entire season. I would love to know. This team, I got up to 93% on Fantasy Football Hub. So build the team where you have one player from each club, upload that to Fantasy Football Hub, and let me know if you can beat 93%. I think it will be difficult to do. So again, I've picked players here that they might not be the best player for their team, but they fit in the team structure and price. And also on top of that, most of them are pretty nailed on and good for minutes that I know I can leave in there all season. When I look at this team, hand on heart, I wouldn't mind running this team in Game Week 1. I genuinely think it's as strong, if not stronger, than a lot of the drafts I've built. So to go through it, Verbruggen, by the way, is still injured apparently and might not start Game Week 1. But for, again, all intents and purposes, I've put Verbruggen in. Romero, Gabriel, Nico Williams. Incredible backline there of those three. Very, very nailed on. Very good for each. Right, Romero's got great defensive contributions. Gabriel's a goal threat. Nico Williams has a bit of both. And I've got Richards on the bench as well. My midfield five looks so good. It's Bruno Fernandes, NDI, Salah, Rodgers, and Cole Palmer. The front two is then Bowen and Eva Nilsson. That's such a good team. And again, secure for minutes. I really wouldn't mind rocking this. Someone asked me 2 years ago, it was now, not last season, the season before. They said, I really want to play FPL, but I'm kind of falling out of love with it. Like, what could I do to make it more fun? And I gave them two possible ways to play the game. Because I said, you've got to do something, right? If you want to play it, but it's not fun for you, you need to find a way to have fun. The first option I gave them was to only pick players below 10%. Now, that seems easy, right? But what that means is if you pick a player below 10% and they start scoring goals, they quickly go above 10%, then you have to transfer them out. You can even drop that to 5% if you want to. That means that you're constantly having to check the ownerships of your players and transfer them out based on if they start doing really well. So you're always having to find the next big thing rather than being able to own players that are in a good run of form. So that's the first one. And the other one I said is just own one player from each team. This means then if you wanted to suddenly go out there and get Gyökeres, you'd have to not only sell one of your forwards, but you'd have to sell Gabriel too. It's a fun game of chess, I think, to play this. So I'm not saying that most people do this. Most of you will probably sit here and think, I'm not going to do this, Raptor. But if you want to try and build a team that can beat this one, like I said, use the link down below at Fantasy Football Hub to get your team rated. Let me know if you can beat 93%. And let me know if you'd be willing to do this. Maybe one season in the future when we're all a bit bored of FPL, maybe I'll do a challenge like this. I'll still play FPL to the best of my ability, but maybe I'll do it within some restrictions and requirements because I think that would be super interesting to watch from a content perspective each week. So yeah, let me know if you can beat my 93% one player per team. So guys, there you have it. Those are 6 unique drafts that I built that I just thought was worth discussing to show you that there are multiple ways to play FPL. You can set up your squad in very, very unique ways and still do really well. Let me know what you think of the drafts down below. Let me know out of the 60 if there are any that you really like or potentially don't like. If you are watching on YouTube, please do drop a like. Make sure to subscribe. If you're listening on audio, thank you for the support. Please do consider rating 5-star and following on your platform of choice. Until next time, which will be Monday for my updated draft, thank you very much. Bye-bye.